and a very warm welcome back to the channel of Motoring Nonsense. Now, for a while, I've wanted to drive a Genesis GV60, but I've not really had the chance until Genesis emailed me 2 weeks ago and said, you can drive one, but you have to come to Berlin for the day and we're going to force feed you sausage. And that sounds like my dream day out, frankly, so I'm going to head out on the roads in a minute. I'll do a quick walk around first and we'll cover things like, should you buy it in that colour? Probably not, unless you're 12 years old. And we'll talk about some of the driving modes. I think we're even going to take it on a little drifting course as well to see if it can give me some electric tingly bits in my bits. But anyway, let's go. So what is the GV60? Well, it's the smallest all-electric car Genesis does at the moment. It's very similar to the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 in terms of the platform it's using, which is called eGimp, never forget that. It costs from £54,000 in the UK. Get a Sport Plus model and it's £68,000. The Sport Plus gets dual motors, more powerful dual motors, and a limited slip diff, hence the drifting later. But anyway, let's talk about that top spec Sport Plus one because it's the most exciting. It's got 490 horsepower, it's got 700 newton meters of torque, and the venerable Kia Genesis Hyundai 77.4 kilowatt hour battery for a 290 mile range. Now, slightly more sensible, at the bottom of the range is a single motor rear wheel drive one that can do 320 miles, and that's only got 230 horsepower, and in the middle is a dual motor with 320. But yeah, there's three options there in terms of motors. They all charge quite quickly. The top spec one does 239 kilowatts, which means you can charge from 10 to 80% in under 20 minutes, which is faster than a goose that's been covered in its own fat and chucked in the oven. Now, the Sport Plus one is designed to be, as you would guess, sporty. It's on Michelin Pilot Sport EV tyres, which are some of the stickiest EV tyres that I've driven. You've got a Lime brake caliper option, which is a bit suspect. And if you look at these cars here, there's a bunch of GV60s lined up there. It's they've all got proper mirrors. This one has been given camera mirrors, so we'll see if those are any good as well if I get this car. Let's have a quick look at the interior. I've always been really impressed with Genesis interiors. I think they punch so far above their price bracket. It puts them right up there with some cars that cost six figures. Yeah, to be honest, just like the quality of the leather, the smell, the general vibe and ambiance for the cabins in Genesis models is really good. Excuse the wonky steering wheel, I mean, that's not good, is it? You get the famous crystal ball, and when you turn it on, that revolves to reveal the gear shifter. This one's got lots of dark Alcantara, panoramic sunroof hidden away there. And of course, you've got Genesis, Kia, Hyundai's big dual infotainment screen there. There are some oddities. I like the little mirror moving thing here, that's quite cool. And it's knurled around the edges. It is plastic, but it does feel quite cool. And you've got the screens here for the side mirrors. So yeah, I'm gonna hop in to one of these and go for a drive. This isn't gonna be your usual full balls to the wall thorough review because I haven't got time, frankly. Rear seat space, I'll jump in a bit and show you that. Let's have a quick look at the boot. I think it's only 420 odd litres on these, which isn't as big as in some comparable EVs. It's a little bit smaller than in the EV6 from memory, but there you go, there's your space. And under here, you've got a little bit of space for some gubbins and a home charging cable, I guess, in there. And they do have frunks as well, which is very good. Obviously the dual motors get a smaller frunk, I think it's 20 odd litres. The rear wheel drive one gets a 50 litre frunk. Can I find the release for it? Let's have a look. It's very exciting. Do stay tuned for me crashing one of these into a Bratwurst later. There we go. I mean, that's big enough for the charging cables if you got them out of the bag, probably. It's very clean under there. It's probably a German press car, but anyway. Right, this is what a 6'3", slightly overweight bald man looks like in the back of a Genesis GV60. I have got just enough headroom to recline fully. I've got knee room of about an inch before I hit the unremittingly hard plastic of the back of that seat, and that's in a reasonably comfortable passenger position for me. I have got room for my feet. I've got two USB-Cs, they're handy little net. There's no hump in the floor, so your middle seat, although it's narrow, is slightly more useful than some other cars. And to be honest, I'm actually quite impressed. Because this is the smallest Genesis, I thought getting in the back would feel like cramming myself into a KFC family bucket rather than the other way round, which is what I normally do on a Monday morning. I've got these little blinds here so my children can feel like executive wankers in pinstripe suits, frankly. But yeah, it's very nicely made back here. I've got heated seat controls. It feels luxury, it feels premium, but then it should do because this one's about £70,000. But anyway, that's enough waffle about the back seats of the Genesis GV60. Let's go and do something else. I don't know, maybe drive it or sweat into it.
Facial recognition activated.
Right, new for the model year 23 version of the GV60 is something called facial recognition. It's a bit like your phone. It can unlock using your face. Now this one I've just programmed very simply to recognize my face and my fingerprint, so I don't need any keys. In fact, the keys are with a German man over there somewhere. To set it up, you do need both keys in the car so it knows you own the car. But anyway, basically walk up to it and there's a little camera here in the B pillar, and I press these two things on the door, and then that flashes white, and it goes green, and look, it's unlocked using my face, and that's great. But then it gets better. If I hop in and spin you around a second, now I can start the car as well. Down here is a little fingerprint sensor, so I put my foot on the brake. Sorry, just been interrupted by a German man. But I put my foot on the brake, press the start button, and then it's authenticated using my fingerprint, and then I can just start the car as normal, and it goes into drive, and I'm ready to go. All I've used is my face and my finger. Right, because I care about you, dear viewer, I have managed to grab the keys from the really fast ones, and it's the one with the video cameras for mirrors, so we'll be able to talk about that on my drive out of the Berlin airport on the way to one of Genesis's proving grounds. So yeah, before we get going, I have put on several stone because I've broken my back in several places. So don't call me fat, I know I am. But anyway, I've got augmented reality in there, I've got the route there, I've got my air purification system on, and I've got a boost button on my steering wheel, which gives me the full 490 horsepower. Apparently it's 360 without. But anyway, should we go? Right, I spent the past 5 minutes driving this through town, and my main impression is it's very quiet, but you can feel quite a lot of bumps in the road. It does feel heavy through the suspension. I think it's the big wheels on this version. Apparently the ones with smaller wheels do just feel a little bit more compliant over bumpy surfaces. The other negative I've noticed is, I'm afraid, yeah, these are probably some of the best cameras for mirrors I've used. But you know what? Do you know what works really well for seeing behind you? Yeah, it's a mirror. There's still the same problem that my eyes have to refocus from looking at the windscreen to looking at something about a foot away from my face. So that's just a bit annoying. And when you do move the mirror around, you're not really moving the camera. You're just panning around a digital image. That's what it feels like. So you can never quite get the right angle. And for that side, I'm just still finding it quite hard to judge how close to the curb I am. I don't trust it as much as a mirror. So innovation for innovation's sake, I still think. But hey, we're going to get some twisty roads and some Autobahn so I can do some more German accents, which is what we all really want. And if you're still watching this video at this point, you've got some treats in store for you, possibly. Right, since I'm driving the fast one, let's talk about performance. In fact, let's show you the performance. I'm going to stop on this nice smooth bit of German road, press my boost button, foot on the brake, foot on the accelerator, and let's launch it. Ooh, a bit of tyre squeal, and that is 60 miles an hour. Now, 0 to 60 on this car, or 0 to 62, should I say. God, everyone's talking. I'm trying to talk to the people. 0 to 62 on this car is 4 seconds flat. And that's the same as a Porsche Taycan 4S, which is 20 grand more than this. And that's before you put any options on the Porsche, such as oxygen in the cabin and things like that. In true Genesis style, it pumps up the seat bolsters. Same when you press the boost button, it clamps you into your seat. Ready to be launched at the horizon really quite quickly. 500 horsepower. Yeah, you only get it for 10 seconds at a go, but it is quick, and I should probably slow down. I always get speeding tickets in Germany. Shouldn't have to pay them because of Brexit. I do pay them because I like the Germans and their people. Anyway, let's try and find an Autobahn. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the best bits about driving EVs for me is using regenerative braking to stop yourself in time for junctions. And you can adjust it in the GV60 by using paddles. There's an automatic mode, and then there's also a one pedal driving mode. And yeah, probably don't do it, there's a car behind you. But yeah, so you can slow yourself down just by lifting off the accelerator, or you can make it coast forever and ever. You can have it your way at Genesis BK. That's an old Burger King reference. I don't think anyone's going to get that. And the Golf driver behind me is like, what is that dickhead in that Genesis doing? I'd say it rolls a fair bit on the Autobahn slip roads. And then do I trust the mirrors? Not massively. Let's get into this gap here. But let's talk briefly about motorway refinement anyway. I'm sitting at 80 miles an hour on a reasonably bumpy German Autobahn, and to be honest, it's really comfy in here. I'm not feeling too much thudding through the chassis you sometimes get in some EVs, and there's barely any noise off the tiny door cameras, which are about probably half the size as regular door mirrors, so I can't comment on the noise from those. Tyre roar though is really impressive. There's not much. I'd say this is one of the more refined EVs I've driven, behind a BMW iX, which is just quite a bit quieter than even this. That's a very impressive car though. I found a cobbled street. Hypnotic nipple time. Smaller wheels might be good if you live in, I don't know, Transylvania or something. Ah, there you go. And rest. This part of my review is where I turn into negative Nora and point out one thing that has slightly annoyed me about this car. On the driver's side, you get this little thing so you can adjust the door mirrors, well, the cameras on this car, which is fine. It's in a unique kind of place. It's quite interesting. But what's on the passenger side? Well, you join me on the passenger side. It looks like a speaker or a shower head or the end of a garden hose, but actually it's a really easy to unscrew plastic cover that covers another bit of plastic. Come on, Genesis. You're meant to be premium. I can screw your car. Sorry. I just pulled over to do a bit of photography, and I was going through the menus, and there's a thing in this car called VGS, or virtual gear shift, which apparently is programmed in the feeling of a real gearbox. I'm going to try that out. It's already activated a fake engine noise, so if you can hear a distant rumbling, it's not last night's tikka masala ploughing its way through my colon. It is a fake engine noise. So yeah, let's see how entertaining a fake gearbox really is. Oh, it's a V8, everyone, right? Interesting. It's actually reasonably convincing. Not the noise, just the jolts in the power delivery. So basically you accelerate a bit, it jolts, you accelerate again. It's like being in a Lamborghini with an automated manual. It's, I don't know. It kind of works with the noise, but I want to use the gear shift paddles to change gear, and that's just going to change my regeneration. Right, don't put it through that frow's house. It's like a slightly electric V8. It's weird. It's probably a bit of a gimmick. I can see why it's hidden all the way in those menus, but hey, I'm trying it. It's a little bit of fun. You'll probably use it once and then never again. Right, I'm on a twisty country road in the GV60, and I have to say, it's not that much fun to drive fast. It rolls around and it feels heavy, and obviously it does so especially on the brakes, and you get some tyre squeal. But when you do boot it out of corners in sport mode, it does bloody take off, and it also rotates slightly as well. You can feel that diff working at the back, pushing you out of corners. So actually, yeah, it's not it's slightly more fun than you would have expected, but it's not a car you're going to buy for driving thrills. It is very much a quiet, reasonably comfortable family EV. But yeah, when you boot it out of corners, it's doing something quite cool there with the dual motors. Don't know if lesser models do that, but yeah, feels quite neat. Wish I had proper mirrors though.
At this point, you're probably wondering, where's that drifting footage that you promised? Well, to be honest, my mic's crapped out for that bit of the day, but it wasn't all that impressive. You see, the GV60 does have a drift mode. You enable it by putting it in sport mode, turning stability all the way off, and then pulling on both the gear shift paddles. However, there is a lag between lifting off the accelerator and the motor's stopping turning, so it's actually really hard to drift the thing. The pro driver sitting next to me was Alex Croco, just come straight from the Nürburgring 24-hour race where he was racing for AMG, and he struggled, to be honest. You either got understeer or several 360-degree spins, which was quite fun, but not that satisfying.
I've come to the end of my time with the Genesis GV60, and I've got a few things to say in conclusion. One, I think is probably the most complete, well-rounded Genesis I've driven so far of the 3 models they've got out at the moment in the UK. As an electric thing, it just feels like it's designed from the ground up. It does everything really well. It's got a really well thought out cabin, nice flat floors, loads of storage. It's very refined and very quiet. Now, there are some niggles, the price being one of them with this Sports Plus version. 70 grand is pretty spicy, but then so is the performance. The only downside to that is you get that jiggly ride thanks to those big wheels. It is tolerable completely, it's not crashy, but it's just there, and apparently the lesser models do it better. The range, 290 miles, I think, 290 miles, I think, on paper. It's more like 250 in the real world. Whether that's enough for you is down to you. I can't tell you whether that's good enough for you because I'm not a soothsayer like some old Asterix books. But yeah, it looks cool, it feels groovy, and I've actually seen quite a lot of these on UK roads, so people clearly are starting to believe that Genesis is here to stay. And if you judge them on the quality of their products, then why not? This is a better EV than many more expensive cars. So yeah, I'm going to give this 9 Tim Roadies out of 10, which is the highest I've given any car in ages. I would probably just go for a slightly less powerful, less expensive, less jiggly version of it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been useful. Sorry to bring the selfie stick back, but I've broken my tripod. I'll see you next time. Go down to the comments, leave me the Korean word for pile of logs. And I'll see you next time when I won't be getting lightly toasted in a forest just south of Berlin. Goodbye.